Dear friends, welcome all for this Q&A session of legal regulatory compliances challenging in COVID era. Friends, as you are aware that we are organizing this program and key discussion on this COVID era, we are discussing on company law, we are discussing on securities law, forex law, and the most important thing is the labor law, and then implication on contact, because this particular era will create so many ups and downs. And today in this session we have invited Mr. Anupam Malik, who is the ex-additional commissioner of labor, Haryana. Then we have Ankit Singhi, who is a partner in corporate profession and looking after the Companies Act and FEMA issues. Then we have Anjali Agrawal, who looks after capital market aspects. And then we have Deepika Sani, partner in corporate profession, and she will look after the contract and other aspects of legal. Friends, as you are aware, this COVID-19 is a jaljala, and it is a unprecedented move which has taken place in the world. Why I am saying this is unprecedented? Because first time after 100 years, after 1919, when the swine flu was, the Spanish flu was there, after that, after 100 years, this new unprecedented move is taking place, which is not surprisingly common in all aspects. It is affecting every country, every religion, and every person. And the most important thing, it is affecting all businesses. No doubt some business will gain, but majority business will lose. And the most important that people will lose jobs. And if you see this impact, it is a common, it is structured, and it is uniform. Entire world is facing this problem. But as you are aware, we are a human being, we are a fighter, we never lose hope, and we continue to fight. Life will go on, and it will come on track after some time. No doubt it's a difficult time, but in difficult times we have to face. So that's why we are organizing this program, and this program is slightly different. We are not focusing on the speaker will speak and then we don't have time for question answer. So we are focusing on the speaker will speak very little, just to give an introduction, not more than 7, 8, 9 minutes. They will give you the overview, what are the changes has taken place, and then we will start question answer. The question answer will be like this. You will put any question which you can write, and the panelists, on the basis of subject expertise, they will give answer. So you are free to ask any question, any type of thing relevant to this subject, and some questions which may be not relevant to this, you can ask, I'll give reply. Friends, as you are aware, when we are organizing this program, because every regulator is working out and they are giving some relaxation, because they are realizing that this thing cannot happen, so they are giving relaxation. But as you are aware that relaxations are there, but implementation despite of this relaxation is little bit tough, and we face problem. That's why today we want to discuss all issues where the relaxation has been provided by the government and you are facing problem. Second aspect is that some relaxation is not given by the government, because they have given relaxation on the basis of 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months. But the way COVID impact is going on, so there is a possibility it may go long. So certain things which will take shape, the government may provide some more relaxation. But these relaxations, there is a possibility government may not be aware of everything, whatever we are facing problem, because we have a unique problem we are facing, so we can suggest to government. So what I'll suggest all of you, all your problems which are there, we will compile it and we will refer to the respective regulator, so they can proactively work out and they can do. So many suggestions we have given to SEBI, and SEBI has changed it, and ministry we have given, so they are proactive to do this. In this session, we have very learned speaker and the authority on this subject, labor law, because every company is facing problem because factory is closed and the wage bill and the employee bill is there. So what to do it? What are the rational way? What are the legal point? Because otherwise, if we are not working out in cohesive manner, there will be a chaos. So whatever issues are there, whether labor is working or factory is closed, labor is not coming, labor is not able to come, what are the best way to settle this issue? Then we have a contract. So many contracts are there, and these contract will be not able to do it because force majeure is there, because it's an act of God. So act of God is, government is also declared the pandemic, this COVID-19 is a pandemic, and force majeure clause will be applicable. But there are so many contracts where force majeure clause is not mentioned. So what you will do? Government has provided so many things, like they have given EGM exemption, they have given AGM exemption, but something certain between the lines they have not provided. Certain specific issues are there, how to do it. Notice to shareholder they have allowed to the that they can still send through email, but what about those who don't have emails? Fixed date compliance, they have given relaxation. What about the compliance which are the event based, like you have to give open offer, but all these things are not there. So it means open offer cannot take place. Return on various data you have to fill, like deposit, repayment reserve, they have extended date. Deposit redemption, debenture redemption reserve, they have extended the date. But the question is, where is the liquidity? So you can extend the date, but if there is no liquidity, what will be the impact? Will you be called as a defaulter? Then issues coming from the materiality, definition of materiality is also there. Though SEBI has come out and they have given the extension of warrant, they have provided fundraising things. So right issue they have given exemption, and they are providing some more exemption that we have to work out. RBI is also giving relaxation. In FEMA, FDI rules they are changing to protect the Indian investment, and then various other things they are doing. So the point is, all these things are there, but we have to work out that how we can take the maximum advantage of this situation, given the legal aspects, and how we can position ourselves so there's no non-compliance. And if there is a problem to implement this session is for that particular part. You are free, you can ask any question, you can raise any point. There is a two-way to raise your question. Either you can type it your question, and then I will pass on to the particular speaker, or you can raise your hand. The administrator will give you the voice, and then you can ask the question. I think the most best effective way is that you can raise your question and we can give answer. I think this is the background on which we have worked out, and this session is for you. So I'll start with Ankit, that Ankit can give a overview of Companies Act, and then Anjali, then Anupam sir, and then Deepika will discuss. Over to Ankit. You just start your presentation, and so you can give your view.
Thank you, sir, and thanks everyone for joining in such good number. We are here today to discuss various legal and regulatory challenges. So starting with Companies Act. So while the government has been proactive in terms of granting various relaxation on account of problems being faced by the corporates, but yet I believe a lot needs to be done, and I think they need to be more active similar to other regulators like SEBI, which are doing a lot more in terms of relaxation as compared to Ministry of Corporate Affairs. But I think they are cognizant of this fact and are working and will also come out with other slew of measures. So starting with the relaxations which have came so far. So starting with with respect to board meeting. Under the Companies Act, there is a timeline of 120 days between two board meetings. Government has relaxed this timeline of 120 days to a period of 180 days for a meeting which will be held between April 1st, 2020 till 30th September 2020. So meeting gap between two board meetings can be up to 180 days. For listed companies, SEBI has relaxed the requirement of gap completely for meetings which will be held between December 1st, 2019 till June 30th, 2020. So there is a complete relaxation of 120 days. But in any case, the larger period of Companies Act will always be applicable. For people who are facing difficulties in holding board meetings, while board meetings you can pass a lot of resolutions through circulation, and various other matters which cannot be done through circulation can be done through VC. Ministry has also allowed handling of restricted items like financial statement, board report, considering this is the end of financial year, through VC. So you can have these items through VC. So all the items as of now can be transacted by any company through VC board meeting. All the directors and company secretary, anyone else can join through VC. There is no such requirement of someone joining through their office, sitting there and not joining through VC. So all the members can join through VC. Similarly, for EGM, there are a lot of companies who are facing problem in obtaining shareholders' approval, specifically large companies which have large number of shareholders. So the government has also relaxed the requirement for the very first time, and they have allowed holding extraordinary general meetings through VC and other audio-visual means. And they have also relaxed the requirement of sending notices. So you can, instead of sending notices physically, you can send the notice through email. Companies which are required to provide mandatory e-voting facilities shall provide the similar facility during the course of meeting held through VC or OAVM. And companies which are not required to provide, they have to provide either show of hands or poll through email. So they have come out with a detailed guidelines as to how these things to be done. Similarly, notice of such a meeting of an EGM should disclose the various statutory requirements, and additionally shall also disclose the manner in which members can join through VC, a helpline number if they are facing any technical issue, manner of voting, how they can vote. They have to provide similar things in the notice of the EGM. After the EGM, they have also relaxed a similar relief to postal ballots. So in postal ballot, there is a requirement of both e-voting and a physical ballot. So for the time being, I think till 30th June 2020, you can carry on any exercise through postal ballot and can only send through notices through e-voting, through email, and they can vote through email, e-voting. There will not be any physical ballot that would be sent to member, and there would not be any physical ballot voting. The only voting medium would be e-voting. Considering the technicalities involved in a notice in holding an EGM through VC or OVM, I think doing a postal ballot in case you have a large number of members is much more easier as compared to holding an EGM, and I think that should be a preferred mode. While it takes a large number of days, I think 5-6 days in addition to timelines of the EGM, but I think technically it is more sound to hold or pass resolutions through postal ballot. For AGM, as of now, Ministry has come out with relaxation for AGM for companies whose financial year ended on 31st December 2019, because the end date for such companies was June 30th. So Ministry has now relaxed the requirement to hold this meeting till December 2020 for a further period of time. By 30th September 2020. No such other relaxation has been issued for other companies who are where the financial year is ending on March 31st, 2020. But as we are aware that Ministry is working on it, and I think a similar relaxation as being provided for EGM should be extended to AGM in case the lockdown continues, or Ministry will extend the period of holding EGMs probably till December 2020. SEBI was also allowed a similar relaxation to hold AGM for top 100 companies where the requirement is held within 5 months of closure of financial year. So if they are having financial year ending December 19, then they can also the relaxation is also being given on the lines of the Companies Act relaxation. Then apart from the meetings, another compliance requirement that we face is filing of forms. So there is a major problem in filing of forms since we are all working from home. We might not have access to requisite documents, or most probably in most of the cases digital signatures. So to grant a consolidated relief to such a situation, Ministry has issued a scheme which is called Companies Fresh Start Scheme. The tenure of the scheme is from April 1st till 30th September 2020. So any form that is filed during this duration, it is except the forms like SS7 or charge related forms, or any other form filed apart from these forms will be there will be no additional fees, whatever the date of the filing. So it is not necessary that due date of filing and the delayed period both should fall under the tenure that is from April 30th April to September. Any due date, even if the due date ranges as back as to period when the Companies Act 1956 was there, similar those forms can also be filed. Certain forms of Companies Act 1956 era was also allowed to be filed. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity for anyone, not only who is facing problem in filing these forms during this current time, but anyone who has not filed forms previously in 1918 or any time, and the filing is due since long. I think they can use this opportunity and they just need to pay the normal fees. So I think two forms where condonation specifically is required, technically as of now are not allowed to be filed unless the condonation is obtained from the Government of India, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So once the condonation is obtained, then you can file the form without any additional fees. Simultaneously, they have also granted some relaxation for creating a deposit repayment reserve and debenture redemption reserve. There is a requirement of creating these reserves by April 30th, 2020. Their ministry has extended the requirement to June 30th, 2020. I think, but if the lockdown persists, I think this requirement will be, relaxation will be further extended. Similarly, CARO 2020, which has been recently introduced, I think in March 2020, which was to be applicable from financial year 1920, has been deferred for applicability from 2021 financial year. So a lot of new things were introduced in the CARO 2020. I think companies will be relieved in terms of disclosure requirement. Similarly, for companies LLP whose name was expiring, where the name was filed and the date was approved, and because in both the case of change of name or new name, there is a requirement of 20 days, 60 days, and 90 days. So Ministry has come out with a relaxation that in case the expiry date is between March 15 till May 3rd, then there is a relaxation of 20 days beyond May 3rd. So beyond May 3rd, within 20 days of May 3rd, you have to file for the incorporation form for the respective company or LLP, as the case may be. Then in FEMA, not much have been done by the RBI so far. There are a lot of timelines under FEMA also, but as of now, there is a timeline for realization of export proceeds, which the normal timeline is 9 months from the date of export. The RBI has extended this date to 15 months from the current time of 9 months from the date of export. The relaxation is available on or before 31st July 2020. Apart from for filings, other filings like FLA and APR and other related things, as of now, no such relaxation has been issued by RBI. Though there is still much time to file these forms, but in the due course of time, if things persist like this, RBI will definitely come with something. A major amendment, while the objective has been, which was is to introduce this new amendment in foreign direct investment, whereby any citizen or any entity which is incorporated in a neighboring country which shares land border India cannot make any foreign direct investment in India without the approval of the Government of India. Earlier, this restriction was there only with respect to Pakistan and Bangladesh, but now this has been extended to other regions like China, Afghanistan, Bhutan, Myanmar. I think the biggest loser or sufferer from this relaxation, this restriction would be China, because all these other countries, there is a meager or nil investment. The major the purpose of introducing this relaxation is to create restrictions on the tremendous amount of inflows that is coming from China during this course of time, particularly during the COVID-19 when the markets at lowest. So these are there from my side with respect to companies at SEBI. Over to Ms. Anjali for discussing on SEBI compliances.
Thank you, Ankit. Now you cover the SEBI compliances and relaxation SEBI.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being there in such large numbers. Hope all are well, all is well at your end. Now, talking about the SEBI compliances, as Ankit said, a lot has been relaxed by various regulators, RB including RBI, MCA, a lot has been relaxed. SEBI has also relaxed a lot many things. Few of the things, what all I'll be covering in the present presentation of mine. As Pawan sir said, the object of this webinar is to ask the questions, to encourage the participants to ask the questions. So we have kept our presentations very short. So what we have tried to cover is the relaxations which have already been granted by SEBI. There are certain regulations wherein no exemptions have been granted by SEBI. So these are very important to be kept in mind. And likewise, the relaxations have been granted under ICDR regulations and buyback regulations that I'll be covering. Just a minute. So these are certain relaxations which have already been granted by SEBI for the period ended 31st March 20. These are the compliance regulations in terms of filing of share certificate transfer facility, investor complaint, CG report, shareholding pattern, the audited accounts, secretarial compliance report. I'll not be going into the details of these because a lot has already been circulated. Almost we as compliance officers are almost aware of these requirements and whatever are the exemptions that have been granted. So these are certain exemptions which have already been granted. A recent circular which came for the board meeting intimation, prior intimation of the board meetings, wherein 5-day prior intimation is required for the meetings to consider the results, and 2 days in other cases, 2 working days in other cases. This has been reduced to 2 days for the board meetings to be held up till 31st July 2020. Likewise, under the takeover regulations as well, the last date has been extended up to the last date for filing of the annual disclosure has been extended up to 1st June 2020. Now, this is a very important provision. The compliances wherein no relaxations have been granted by SEBI, because when we all are have a preset notion that the compliance, there have been a lot of relaxations by the SEBI. But the important provisions wherein exemptions have not been granted and which will be considered a non-compliance are important to keep in mind. For example, with effect from 1st April 2020, the appointment of one independent woman director is mandatory for top 1,000 companies. Likewise, minimum 6 directors on the board of the company for top 2,000 companies. Likewise, quorum of the board meeting to be 3 or 1/3 of the total strength plus independent director presence is mandatory for top 2,000 companies. Maximum number of directorships that can be there in a company by a person is applicable to all the listed companies. A person cannot be a director in more than 7 listed entities. And likewise, disclosure in the annual report for the chart or matrix of skills and the directors possessing those skills is mandatory for all the listed entities. So we, being the compliance officers, have to really make sure that we do not miss any of these points. Otherwise, we may get a notice from the stock exchanges for the penal provisions. Likewise, if there is a default in payment of banks and financial institutions, now the present scenario is wherein there is a cash crunch in the economy. and this may lead to a default in the payment of banks and financial institutions. So there was a circular of November 2019 as per which if there is a default in payment of principal or interest for more than 30 days, the same is needed to be disclosed within 24 hours from the date to the stock exchanges. And likewise, within 7 days from the end of the quarter, it is needed to be disclosed. So we have to be very careful about this. Now, the coming slides are very important from the point of view of the promoters and also all the board members, that as to how to raise money. The present scenario is such where in market, our internal accruals have almost dried up. So how to infuse money into the company? So even for that, SEBI has relaxed the provisions for quite a fundraising options. For example, rights issues. We are aware that there are 3 types of rights issues: fast track rights issue, normal rights issue, and a small rights issue of up to the issue size of 10 crores. So for a fast track rights issue, there is a eligibility set of approximately 7-8 conditions wherein relaxations have been granted by SEBI. The most important being the average market capitalization of public shareholding has been reduced from 250 crores to 100 crores. This is a very big relaxation wherein many companies can avail this opportunity and go in for fast track rights issues. Then there is another condition that the company should have been listed for a period of at least 3 years. This 3 years has now been reduced to 18 months. So even a newly listed company can think of coming out with a fast track rights issue. Otherwise, there is a condition that there should not be any audit qualification in the there should not be any audit qualification. This condition has also been done away with. Now only the impact of the audit qualification is needed to be disclosed in the offer letter. Even if there is an audit qualification, the company can file the draft letter of offer with SEBI. Otherwise, there is a condition that there should not be any violation of securities laws either by the company or the promoter or the director. So now they have relaxed that if any such violation has been settled with SEBI, the company is allowed to come out with company is allowed to file the offer letter with SEBI. In the rights issues, there is a very important provision of minimum subscription. For rights issues, this has been reduced from 90% to 75%. This again is a very big relaxation, and companies can take advantage. Companies can come out with the rights issues in a comparatively easier way. The third option, the third relaxation which has been granted, there is a concept of small rights issue wherein for an issue size of up to 10 crores, the company is not required to the ICDR regulations are not applicable. So this 10 crore limit has been raised to 25 crores. Another relaxation which has been granted by SEBI, for all the public issue documents which have been filed with SEBI up to 31st March 2020, these companies are allowed to increase or decrease their issue size by up to 50% of the issue size without any requirement of filing a fresh offer document. So under the present scenario, otherwise, there is a requirement that if the issue size varies by even 20%, a fresh offer document is needed to be filed. So considering the COVID environment and a possibility that the companies may not be able to raise the huge amounts which they had earlier planned, SEBI has relaxed this condition of 50%. Likewise, even in buyback regulations, there has been a big amendment. As per the buyback regulations, for any, if upon closure of a buyback period, for a period of 1 year, the company is not allowed to raise any further capital. But this 1 year period has now been reduced to 6 months. And so accordingly, any company which came out with a buyback offer during the preceding financial year, that company can take benefit of the situation and the company can raise further funds up after a period of 6 months itself. Thank you. Over to Mr. Anupam Malik. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Pawanji, thank you very much for the opportunity to interact with so many people at one go and this technology. I hope everybody is fine at home and in the lockdown and using their intelligence and creativity for the future. I'll come directly to the issues related to labor. Primarily, every law has its objectives. We must understand that the legislature is very strong, and the law, a detailed process goes into making any law, whether it is the Disaster Management Act or the Industrial Dispute Act that governs the labor laws. Coming directly to the point, definition of layoff under Section 2KK of the Industrial Dispute Act recognizes the occurrence of natural calamity and says that with its grammatical variations, cognate expression means the failure, refusal, or inability of an employer on account of shortage of coal, power, raw material, or the accumulation of stocks or breakdown of machinery, or, now this is 84 induction, natural calamity or for any other connected reason, natural calamity or connected reason to give employment to a workman whose name is borne on the muster roll of his industrial establishment who has not been retrenched. Now, here is an issue that it is already recognized that it is a layoff. It is deemed layoff. Now, what do you do in a deemed layoff? You pay layoff compensation, which is half the wages. Okay, now this is about Section 25C. Here we split into two parts. Firstly, just the distinguishing between wages and layoff compensation. Any amount which is not earned wages is compensation. Very simple. Keep it in your mind. And when the government has ordered that salaries to be paid, and we must understand the objective behind the directive of the government, that we have to prevent, this is a natural calamity, it's a very serious situation which may result in a very serious disaster. They want that people should not panic. There should be no dearth of resources. Everybody should stay in and not go out. So let's appreciate what the government has said. The direction is itself proves that it is compensation and not wages, because if I don't pay that the salary to the worker, that amount equivalent to wages, the action will not be under the Payment of Wages Act or the Industrial Dispute Act. The action will be under 188 IPC. Means the direction of the government has to be complied with to save the situation we are facing right now. Now, what is your limitation to paying even compensation or whatever the directive of the government? Initially, everybody went into humanitarian, everybody paid 31st March, everybody paid salaries because it was an 8-day lockdown. Half the wages could have been deducted for, say, 4 days, wages could be deducted because it was compensation, but everybody had a very good spirit. We are naturally compliant. We don't behave like Americans that unless you have the stick or the gun on your head, you don't comply. It's not the case. We Indians are fine, far better, but we have our own compulsions and problems. We have a very meager resources, very thin, industry walking on a very thin line. Now coming directly to Section 25C of the Industrial Dispute Act, which says for 45 days you continue to pay half wages as layoff compensation. After that, you acquire the right to retrench the workers. Now, here is a serious situation. I am not talking of law in the first place. I mean, every businessman must understand, an industrial unit must look for a business decision within the precincts of law. Instead of, we are not meant for law. Law is meant for us. We need to understand that we have to, within the parameters of the law, what best decision we can take. Now, suppose there is an MSME, the biggest problem you have, you don't have good manpower. Now, on 30th of April, you decide that I have to, I can't pay wages. The kind of amount they are asking for, because I'm an exporter and the money is not coming forth. You have to pay now, but you can adjust the amount later on when you decide to retrench. Okay, coming to retrenchment after 45 days, the biggest problem is that you are talking of not having enough resources to pay wages. Are you going to pay? Do you have the money to pay off the worker after 45 days? For retrenchment, you need a big amount. Now leave that aside. Your biggest problem is how to retain good manpower. Skilled manpower is the biggest problem in India in the MSME sector. Are you going to let that worker go who has been running a factory for 15 years? Think about it. I'm posing a question to you all to think about a business decision instead of simply following the law, the dotted line. There are many things which have to be done within the parameters of law, and a business decision has to be taken rather than that. Now, here is another question. Now, Chapter 5A and Chapter 5B is there in the Industrial Dispute Act. Chapter 5B is about industries, that means a factory where 100 or more workers are employed. Now, this figure goes up to 300 in the case of Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Rajasthan, and Haryana, where we have taken the limit to 300. So, if you have 300 workers or more, or say in the normal course 100 workers or more, you need the permission of the government to close down. But in the case of natural calamity, it is deemed. Again, now you want to retrench, then you have to again come out with a permission from the government. But in the normal course, for all other establishments, the law is very clear that you do not need the permission of the government to retrench after 45 days. Now, questions which have been posed, I'll come to other things like, what do you do with workers who are on contract? A contractor's worker is not your worker. You are not the employer. The employer is the contractor. So, your terms of engagement with the contractor will decide whether you have a liability to pay layoff compensation to the contractor. I can't give a straight answer yes or no because your terms of engagement will decide. But definitely the principal employer is not responsible for payment of wages or compensation to the workers, contract workers directly. Now, coming to another question, bonus. Bonus is payable on earned wages. Please let us understand the concept. Let's not push through. Bonus is payable on earned wages. And earned layoff compensation is not earned wages. Next, no salary to be paid, you must pay as, see, there is a question here again. Is it legal to cut salaries or terminate the employment in the COVID era? You see, you need to be very clear on the objective of the direction of the government, that right now it is in your interest to prevent panic around you. You're looking at death eyeball to eyeball. These are the people, the skilled workers who are running your industry. They should be protected. This disease is from, these well-read people, traveling around the world who have brought it here. These poor people are not to be blamed for this, but, well, they work together. Can you run a factory in that, aseptic conditions they are talking about? It will be very difficult. How will you do it? Now, the question is, what was the objective? Objective is to prevent panic and prevent the workers from going on the road or, some kind of situation, an unruly situation. Right now, it is humanitarian and for your business and a long-term relationship and your reputation that you hold on. Wait for at least have a proactive attitude and approach to business and whatever is coming in front of you. First of all, you saw 31st March, you did well, you paid them. Now you have 30th April coming where you have to pay. 50% is already there payable as layoff compensation. So even if you pay another 15 half wages as advance against wages, what is the problem? And say 5th to 8th May, 45 days will be complete. And then you can think about it. What does your business call for? And there are very bold people who are preparing for the onset of a big business. People are coming to India, and today you close down. You dug your grave right now. Don't go down. Don't miss the crisis. Don't miss this opportunity to learn from the crisis. I would not like to focus on law alone. I would call upon all participants to think of the business perspective and a proactive approach to making a decision in the current situation. If you have some very critical areas, I will, then you should pose a question. Otherwise, I think we have, the law is very clear. The Disaster Management Act is, the objective is very clear. The labor laws already recognize all these things, and the answer is already there in the book. I think it's all right, Pavanji?
Yes, sir.
I think,
sir, thank you. You have given answer of questions also. I will next question, whenever it will come, I will pass on to you. So thank you very much, sir. Now I will request Deepika Vijay to discuss about the contract and force majeure and doctrine of frustration. Then we can take up question and answer. Yeah, Deepika.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, friends. I hope everybody is doing fine, and it has become so strange that every talk is starting from the whereabouts of the health of the other person, because we are today sitting in a very unprecedented situation, and nobody has imagined this kind of situation world around. It is not only us as an individual, professionals and business houses which are facing this situation or the heat of the pandemic. All the small companies, big companies, everybody is suffering. And the major question which is coming or which is being posed in front of businesses and companies is, what about my contractual obligations? How to perform my contractual obligations? I'm not being able to perform. What about my payment obligations? So these are the questions which every company or every business house is facing these days. And in light of these questions, the one term which is being most commonly coming into use is force majeure. Force majeure clause, which was mostly being used as a boilerplate clause in all the agreements. Mostly we used to just copy paste from the standard clauses and incorporate it in the other terms, has suddenly become very, very important. So what does this force majeure clause means? What does force majeure means? Force majeure is basically a condition which is not anticipated, uncontrollable and unexpected. If we have a specific force majeure clause in our agreement, and it includes certain conditions like war, like strikes, lockdown, act of God, floods, earthquakes, civil unrest, riots, terrorist attacks, these are the general terms which we cover under force majeure, and these situations are broadly covered under force majeure. Now, when we are talking about COVID-19, whether COVID-19 is being covered under the force majeure, so COVID-19 has been termed as a pandemic, declared as a pandemic by a World Health Organization and also by our Indian government. Indian government has also termed COVID-19 as a natural calamity. So yes, it is being covered under force majeure clause. Now, another question which arises for us is whether your agreement do have a force majeure clause or it does not have a force majeure clause. So if your agreement do have a force majeure clause, then you can definitely rely on the clause. But then another thing which becomes a testing ground is whether your contractual obligation is actually being stopped or tested because of the force majeure, whether your compliance is being challenged because of the force majeure, whether there was a task which was to be performed by a specific date, whether there was a delivery which was to be given by a specific date which is being prevented because of the force majeure condition, because of the lockdown, then you can take benefit of force majeure clause. Another thing is that I had to make a payment, and I cannot do payment because there's a force majeure situation, lockdown has occurred. So banks are running. Your obligation is to make the payment. Generally, payment obligations are not prevented under force majeure, and parties may not get relief from their payment obligations. Likewise, another important factor to invoke force majeure clause is the process of invoking force majeure clause. Generally, agreements have detailed process defined in their force majeure clause with respect to the notices to be issued, the person to whom the notice is to issue, the timeline of issuance of the notice, the mode of delivery of the notice. So we have to be very careful and ensure that the process which is defined in our agreement is being duly complied with. This is very important because if we will not adhere to those timelines, those mode of deliveries, then we may weaken our own case. Parties have to be also very conscious about the fact that we have to take steps to mitigate the effect of force majeure as well. So this means that to the extent you can perform your obligation, you must perform. It should not be that the part of the obligation which you could have performed, you are not performing because of taking excuse of force majeure. Then again, you're weakening your own case. You must ensure that whatever is possible to be performed, you must perform. Then it is also very important that whatever obligations are there, and it is not your default, you are not at a default. That means if you were in default from prior to the initiation of the force majeure, then you cannot take pretext of present situation and say that I cannot now do it because of the force majeure. So you should not be at default before. Then the question comes that my agreement do not have a force majeure clause. What happens? Now this is also if your agreement does not have a force majeure clause, then we rely, or you can take benefit of a very common doctrine, which is doctrine of frustration. It is also covered under section 56 of the Contract Act. But doctrine of frustration is a very well settled law, tested at Supreme Court level in plethora of cases, and it is very well defined that a doctrine of frustration is when your contractual obligation become impossible to perform because of an unprecedented and because of an unforeseen event. Some change in law has happened, or some factual change has happened which has made it impossible for you to perform your contractual obligation. Now in this kind of a situation, whether COVID-19 is covered under frustration, doctrine of frustration, the answer will totally depend upon the facts of the cases, because COVID-19 is not something which is permanent in nature. It is very temporary. It is prevailing for certain period of time. So that has to be seen, that whether your contractual obligation is unable to be performed only for a temporary period, or it has become impossible altogether. Like if you were supposed to deliver a perishable item, you cannot deliver it, so it has become impossible. But in other situations, it will not. Likewise, unprofitability or commercial non-viability of a situation will not attract a contract frustration of contract and will not be made applicable. Here also, likewise in force majeure, the party invoking contract frustration cannot be at a default. He must not be in non-compliance of any of the provisions by itself to make sure to take the benefit of a doctrine of frustration. Now, a very common question which has been occurring, or which has been arising since this lockdown, had been about the rents, whether I can deny payment of rents. So if you are not, if you are on a rented premises and your offices are shut, or your restaurants or your parlors are shut, you one thing is that you have to see your contract, whether it has a FM clause or it does not have a FM clause. In case it does not have a FM clause, which is worded accordingly, and you want to rely on doctrine of frustration, you will not get a relief, because it's a very short period thing. This situation will continue for 3 months, 4 months maximum. So doctrine of frustration, you will not get relief under the under this situation. So now, thank you, sir. We can move on to the questions.
Okay, thank you, Deepika. I have received various questions, so I will put these questions one by one to people. So now I'll start with this first question. First question, Mr. Nikhil Kalra has pushed, Mr. Vijay, has government issued any guidelines saying COVID has force majeure? Answer is yes. Government on 19 February 2020, the Finance Ministry has issued a guideline, and they clarified COVID-19 is a pandemic, and this will be force majeure clause will applicable. So this is if you can download this 19 February guideline. Otherwise, if you require, you can mail it to us. We will send it to you. Next question is to Anjali. Will stock exchange and depository provide relaxation in terms of payment of annual listing fees or extension of time? Yogesh Manager has asked this question.
Hi Yogesh. See, as of now, they do not have any intention of extending the last date of payment. We have had a word with stock exchanges as well, but they are saying that the companies are making the payments. So currently, they do not have any proposition of extending. Just in case they do not pay and they issue a notice, then we have an option of applying to them and writing to them that because of COVID problem, COVID pandemic, we were not in a position to generate the revenues, and that is why the payment got delayed. But presently the situation is we have to pay it off by 30th of April.
Yogesh, one more suggestion is there that you can write to the stock exchange, and when more companies will write to the stock exchange will consider this part and they will give relaxation. And I think it's a genuine case.
We can do that.
Income, even the bank account operating is a very difficult task. So that's why you can take this relaxation. Next is the next question is to Mr. Anupam Malik, sir. What is the position of bonus provision for the lockdown period? You have given answer. The bonus is not the wages; it's a additional thing. You want to add something, sir? Your voice is not there, sir.
Muted.
Sir, you're mute. Okay, in the meantime, I'm asking question to Ankit. Ankit, with extension being provision for holding board meeting from 120 days to 180 days, will it also extend the date for filing the vacancy of women director from 3 months to 6 months? Ankit, your voice. I think all speakers should.
No such relaxation has been issued. No such relaxation has been issued for the time now.
But what is the position? What do you think?
So the timeline for filling the vacancy will still persist.
Okay. Anupam sir, your.
Am I back? Am I audible?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can.
Yes. See, as I clarified that this is layoff compensation. As a matter of fact, even Provident Fund is not deductible. I don't want to get into that controversy. This is not earned wages. Bonus is payable only on earned wages. There is only compensation.
Okay. Sir, is it mandatory for companies to pay contract labor?
I've already answered that. Contract labor is not the employee of the principal employer. If you pay them, you get into trouble. And whether you pay through the contractor, you compensate the contractor is a part of your contract of engagement. Whether it specifies what are the terms of engagement in the case of force majeure, what are your terms with the contractor? Whether it will automatically terminate, you will give him compensation, or what will be the terms? That you have to go through the terms of that contract of engagement with the contractor.
Thank you, sir. Anjali, for Raju Tomar has asked this question. In case of allotment done on account of exercise of shares under ESOP, is there any relaxation to file listing application with depositories, stock exchange on account of COVID-19?
Hi, Raju. Raju, the requirement, the timeline is 20 days. Within 20 days of the allotment, we need to file the listing application. And the annexures, I think there is no requirement of extension in this, because the annexures that are needed to be attached are comparatively simpler annexures. So stock exchanges have not granted any extension in filing of listing applications. Sir, over to you.
Okay. Anjali, another question is, as per regulation 17(1)(c) of LODR, Board of Directors of 1000 company, listed company, with effect from April 1, 2019, and the top 200 listed company shall comprise of not less than 6 directors. As explained by Ms. Anjali, no restriction has been provided for compliance of these provisions. The board of directors of the company is having adequate number of directors, but one of the board members resigned. How much time the company will have to comply with the requirement of regulation 17(1)(c) to restore the minimum number of directors in company?
So Companies Act provides for a time frame of 3 months for appointment of a new director in case of there is a vacancy in the office of the director. So that the same will prevail even for listed entities. We'll get a time frame of 3 months to appoint a new director.
Yeah, but only that is available in case of an independent director. If a normal non-executive, non-independent director resigns, there is no such timeline which has been prescribed to comply with this requirement. You have to do it on an ASAP basis.
Okay, Deepika, the question is for you, whether we can do as common force majeure letter which can be sent to other vendors such as vendor for rent, admin, etc., and shall be put on the website of the each company.
Like I told earlier, if your agreement has a force majeure clause, then the serving of the notice of force majeure clause should be strictly in compliance with the provisions of your agreement. If there's a process defined there, you have to follow that process. If that process allows you to the publishing of on the website and issuing a common letter, then you can do it. If it does not, then you have to follow the process which is described there. It has to be addressed to the specific person and delivery should be in a specific mode.
Okay, another question is, if rent agreement has a force majeure clause, can I hold paying of rent commercial properties?
If the force majeure clause is termed as such that you, under the force majeure condition, you will not be liable to pay rent, then definitely you can waive off the rent liability for that period.
Anupam sir, is it legal to cut salaries or terminate the employee in the COVID era?
No, during this period, employer should not, cannot, because it is a directive of the MHA to mitigate the situation. They should not terminate or reduce wages. I mean, any kind of, even sending people on earned leave is wrong, because that again is a whole amount gone from the kitty of the employee. The only thing you can pay is layoff compensation and an additional 15 days wages against amount against wages as advance. But any kind of such act would tantamount to violation of the order of the Ministry of Home Affairs and is punishable under IPC 188. That will, they will defeat the very purpose and they will create panic.
Okay. Sir, next question is, can we deduct the payment for absentees?
Yes, very much right. This has come out in a big way, because there are a good lot of companies, especially in the emergency services, essential services, and the workers are not coming. These workers, you can deal with them not only deducting wages, but indiscipline also, because this is not only a violation of the rules, the standing orders, but it is also contrary to the directive of maintaining essential services. So
Okay.
to all the actions.
Can a company consider reduction in salary for the employees in view of COVID-19?
With a mutual agreement, yes. Otherwise, no. General principle apply. You can't deduct wages, or if there's some kind of service conditions to be altered, resulting in reduction in wages or some kind of reduction in facilities to be provided to cut down cost, then Section 9A Industrial Dispute Act notice of section of 21 days has to be given, and then only the service conditions can be changed.
Okay, Deepika, one question. Am I required to pay rental of my showroom specifically when my showroom is under lockdown?
It totally depends on your agreement, whether your agreement has a force majeure clause or it does not have a force majeure clause. If it has a force majeure clause, then you can seek the remedy under force majeure and avoid payment of rental. If it does not have a force majeure clause, I'm afraid that you cannot attract defense under Section 56 or doctrine of frustration.
One question they have asked: will a finance ministry clause extend after lockdown as a pandemic will continue? Till when I can take shelter of finance ministry clause? So the answer is this.
Force majeure.
Yeah. Deepika.
Yeah. So as per Disaster Management Act, pandemic or this COVID pandemic is the force majeure and not the lockdown. Lockdown is not treated as a force majeure. So even after the lockdown is open and this pandemic is continuing, the FM will continue, force majeure will continue, but it will also depend that whether that situation is still continuing for the specific contract. Say if you were under obligation of doing a certain task or construction and your labor is there, construction has been opened by, say, in Rajasthan or in Gurgaon or whatever area. So if you are able to perform that, then you cannot take the shelter of FM. But if your situation is still continuing as such that you cannot perform because of this pandemic, then you can continue to have the benefit of force majeure.
One more point, Deepika, because this is a force majeure, there may be consequential to that particular activity, or something will happen. There is a possibility today you are not facing problem, but tomorrow you may face problem because of this COVID-19. Okay, so that's why this point you can take advantage in future also if this is the resultant of this.
Very well said, sir, because force majeure is not only with respect to lockdown, it is the pandemic situation which is being defined as force majeure. So opening of the lockdown is not a parameter to determine whether the force majeure is there or not.
Okay, sir, what is the effect of MHA circular on worker, staff, fixed term employee and work employed through contracts, whether mandatory to pay for April 2020 in full? What about retainership worker?
See, right now, retainership worker is they have a very clear cut in terms of engagement, and that will the term will go away. You see, straight away, people who are less than 1 year, they must go. People who are casuals, you see, after let us make it a deadline of 45 days. Take all the decisions after 30th April. As to what happens to your business, what is the state of labor, what is the kind of money you can afford to pay. I know a good lot of Indian companies who are paying full and they plan to pay full irrespective of the length of the lockdown. Now you have to look at post 45 days, what will happen. You have to take a decision that if you are not able to carry on, you will have to retrench. And if you are closing down, that's another issue, because it is connected with the natural calamity. I know a good lot of exporters who are at the verge of collapse. They have to decide right away what it has to be done. So they'll have to reduce manpower. Post 45 is provided in the law that you can retrench, you can leave off, jettison any number of workers, especially when you do not need the permission of the government, like in commercial establishments, non-manufacturing establishments, less than 300 in the case of Haryana and less than 100 in the case of the rest of the country. They have to take a decision after 30th of April. Right now, they should bear with this thing and follow the direction of the government. And well, by then, the Supreme Court is also ready. They've asked for the answer in 15 days, which will again be through in the second week of May. And they have to answer. It's not possible, physically not possible, to keep on paying for nothing. Because I know a good lot of industries who have a very high wage bill. All garment manufacturers have 20 to 25% HR cost. They will sink. They can't do it. The people who are exporters, they are finished, because I know 5 people whose buyers are dead. They are filing bankruptcy. What will they do? They are finished. So you all have to take a decision after 30th of April.
Okay, there's a question for Ankit. The question is there any due date extension for MSME return?
Sir, there is no due date extension for MSME return. The reason being that there is no additional fees for MSME form. So all the forms where there is an additional fee, there is already been an extension. So since there is no additional fees, so there is no extension has been issued by government. So you need not to worry with respect to any delayed filing.
But this will not be treated as violation if I am filing late?
Sir, considering the current circumstances, I don't think this would be treated as a violation.
Okay, how to manage to have disclosure of directors for audit purpose?
So disclosures from directors can be taken either by way of digital signatures. If they don't have digital signatures or they can't take a printout and sign, I think they can send an unsigned copy on the mail itself, which would be a sufficient, which will give a sufficient authentication to the document, and that can be used along with the mail, and later a signed copy can be obtained.
Okay, there's a question from Sachin Saluja. The company was in receipt of show cause notice in the month of March 2020 for delay in filing of cost audit report for year 2017 and 18. It is now possible for the company to take benefit of company's fresh start scheme 2020, considering the fact that no event has been placed after introduction of apostate scheme.
Yes, you can take, if no proceedings have been initiated as of now, I think you can still go and file the form with the delayed fees, with no additional fees under the scheme.
Can you give, sir, for Anupam sir, can you give us reference for difference between compensation and wages in Labour Act? And according to you, April month salary is not a wage, it is a compensation. So would PF be applicable on the same or not?
No, I have gone through, I'm not an expert on PF, but I have gone through the case law which has been provided to me by some expert. PF is deductible, ESI is deductible, PF is not deductible because it's not wages. PF is not deductible on anything other than earned wages. Compensation, it's not deductible, and compensation will have to be paid. And that 30 days, the full salary means half of compensation and half of wages, advance against wages. So PF is not payable. Then again, Government of India, government has announced a relief of PF contribution of employer and employee for workers who are drawing less than 15,000 wages. But then above is going to be a huge amount.
Okay, so there's a question that how Go-Air has sent the employee from LWP.
No, I don't agree with that. They are covered under Chapter 5A, and they cannot be asked to go on leave. It is for the government to take action. When it is said that it has to be compensation, it has to be compensation. And earned leave means full amount for each day gone. That's wrong.
Okay. Ankit, appointment of new director according to Rule 86 of the Companies Act. regarding authentication of document, scanned image of document shall be the original signed document relevant to the e-form or form, and the scanned document image shall not be left blank without bearing the actual signature of authorized person. As per Rule 8.1 of said rules, an electronic form shall be authenticated by authorized signatory using digital signature. However, the rule does not provide anything about authentication of PDF document attached with the electronic form by digital signature or electronic signature. A company wants to appoint a new director considering the current time of lockdown and practical problem of obtaining physical signature document with the proposed candidate. Whether the company can attach an unsigned consent of the proposed candidate or PDF of the consent given a disclosure that the signed consent will be maintained by the company once the lockdown period is over.
I think first we should try to obtain a digitally signed copy if that is possible, because digital signed, while it has not been mentioned under the Act, the Information Technology Act recognizes digital signature as a perfect medium of signing a document. So digital signature will work. As regard SD, I think it can be. I don't see any harm so far as the document has been provided by the director itself.
Okay, if the lease agreement for force majeure clause will landlord go to forgo rent during the lockdown period, will it be light with natural justice?
If there is a under the contractual obligation, natural justice has a limited role to play. If two parties have mutually entered into an agreement and have mutually agreed on a clause, even a force majeure clause, wherein they have agreed that in force majeure clause situation certain provisions of the agreement will not apply, like payment of rent, then you are liable to deny payment of rent, and natural justice will not come into play.
Mr. Malik sir, after lockdown, if work is not there, because there is a possibility that the work will take time and there is no work for full day, then are we liable to pay for full days?
See, that would be a very typical case, whether you have a union, you don't have a union, or what is your equation with the workers. The law provides that you can go for zero compensation, you can go for half wages, and if there's an agreement, you can even reduce wages, but there has to be an agreement with the workers, a mutual agreement to go about and deal with the situation arising out of the collapse of business after this, because the law says connected therewith. The layoff, definition of layoff is natural calamity or for any other connected reason to give employment to a workman whose name is borne on the muster roll. Now, this will continue. The layoff continues.
Sir, can a company
depend more on the equation with the workers?
Okay, sir. Connected question: can a company stop the payment of year incentive performance pay to employee in the event of COVID-19 without employee consent?
Obviously, they should. There is no incentive, there is no protection. You see, there is a catch here. If they must go through the Provident Fund judgment in the case of Surya Roshni, if they are giving just an incentive as a format, it will merge with the basic. If it is actually performance-related incentive, it does not stand at all. It is not to be paid. Then they have to read the agreement also under which they are giving. If there is an agreement with the union, they should read the agreement. What does this term say? That if the employer does not provide work, what will be the terms and conditions under the agreement if that is so?
Okay, there is another question, sir. 45 days shall start from the date of notice to the employee or from the lockdown situation?
45 days is day one natural calamity, inability of the employer to provide work within 2 hours, the first day of lockdown, 22nd most probably.
So,
Monday.
So 24th lockdown started 24th.
Was Monday.
Okay. Ankit, there is one question that AGM gap is not more than 15 months. But suppose I have done a meeting on 15th April and I'm not able to do AGM now. So my 15 months will be over. So how to protect this?
government is considering with coming up with relaxation on the gap of 15 months. So in coming days, you will be getting a relaxation on this aspect.
Okay. So can a Deepika, for you, can a company use force measure to deny payment?
Payments are generally not exempted from under the FM clause. Even in a recent one of the cases of Standard Retail versus GS Global Corporates, Bombay High Court has again affirmed its position that payment obligation cannot be denied under FM.
Mr. Malik, can you tell me that if the corporate is collapse or they
Yes.
have to close their business after some time because of this reason, what will happen to the company which has a so many workmen and so many employees?
There are two aspects of this. First of all, let me make a correction. I said that I am not an expert on PF, though I am a member of the Central Board of Trustees. There are various judgments on whether PF is deductible on layoff compensation or not. I am not giving any categorical view on that. Number two, what you said was that if a company has collapsed as a result of the this particular epidemic, there are two parts. Chapter 5A of the Industries Act and Chapter 5B. 5A is in general organizations which are not into manufacturing, and part B, Chapter 5B is factories covered under Factories Act, employing, as I said, 100 or more workers, and in the case of Haryana, Rajasthan, Karnataka, and Madhya Pradesh, it is 300. If it is there, then they close down. They have to go to the government and tell them that this is what we have done. It is forced closure. We have no orders. Again, a formal permission and approval by the government is necessary. But in general, though no permission is required, you just have to pay compensation as per Section 25F, your retrenchment, all dues paid, and finish off. In general, the commercial organization or non-manufacturing organizations.
Okay, Anjali, suppose I have issued warrant. And the warrant expiry date is coming, say month of 30th April, and the warrant holder has no money or he has some financial problem. What is the position? The warrant will expire or there is any extension?
Sir, otherwise the provision is that the warrants will expire. There is no provision as such for extension of warrants beyond 18 months. However, considering the present situation, SEBI has in the case of Deepak Fertilizers, granted an extension of warrants by a period of 2 months and have allowed the investors to infuse funds in additional 2 months period. So on a case-to-case basis, we can make an application to SEBI.
So I have to take approval from SEBI or it's a automatic
approval from SEBI. We have to make an application to SEBI under ICDR.
Okay, Ankit, there is one question for you. They have extension return of various return which have to file, like deposit repayment reserve, debenture redemption reserve. But if I don't have money, what will happen?
As such, there will be a default of the relevant provisions because there is no such exemption from there. The only exemption is towards the date. From 30th April, they have increased the date to 30th June. But otherwise, there is no exemption from creating the reserve. If you don't have funds, then it will be triggering of default of the relevant compliance provision.
Okay, Anji, there is one question. Now there's a money. So how to bring money in the company? What SEBI has given relaxation for various type of fundraising?
So presently we are receiving many queries as to the internal accruals. There is a problem. Business, there is a problem, and even for general corporate purposes, there is happening a situation wherein companies do not have sufficient funds. So in this scenario, the alternative that we have for fundraising is the preferential allotment route and the rights issue route. These two routes are comparatively a very lucrative routes for the promoters as well. The stock prices are bottom rock, and even the promoters know that even in 6 months time or a year's time the markets will boom back. They can take the script, they can take the shares on a preferential allotment route on these prices and put in funds into the company. Likewise, if the promoters do not want to take the entire infusion part on themselves, they can come out with a rights issue. Rights issue, as I told during my presentation, that there are 3 types of rights issues which are available to the companies. A small rights issue up to the limit which has been increased up to 25 crores. ICDR is not applicable. Merchant banker is needed to be appointed. The offer document is needed to be prepared. Due diligence is needed to be done. But otherwise, ICDR is not applicable. So that is a good route for the companies. Fast track route, earlier many of the companies were not falling within the ambit of 300 crore, 250 crores market capitalization, but having it reduced to 100 crore is again a big relaxation, and many companies can avail this. Fast track में सबसे बड़ा advantage ये है that you don't have to go to SEBI. You have to take the in principle approval or observation letter only from the stock exchanges. Principal के पास जाते हुए सबको डर लगता है, टीचर के साथ सब comfortable feel करते हैं. So बहुत सारी many companies are apprehensive as to whether we don't want to go to SEBI. They are apprehensive. So for those companies, fast track route is a very simplified route, and a normal rights issue of course is there. So these 2 modes I feel are in present scenario the most well accepted norms. For example, Reliance Industries is considering a board meeting to come out with a rights issue. We have to see that what rights issue will that be, what mode will that be, but the companies are now coming forward for rights issues as well. Over to you, sir.
But I think the SEBI exchange example was very apt.
Sir, women employee availing maternity leave now during this situation, is there any obligation to make the payout to her or not?
Yes, if the person is already on maternity leave, the full payment will have to be made.
Whether interim dividend can be declared out of accumulated profit of 2019 and earlier year of financial year 2020, even if there is no profit in financial year 2020?
Yes, it can be.
What is the measure to be taken if a company is not paying salary for the month of March 2020 till today because of this epidemic? Anurag sir.
You're asking me, Malik?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
What is the measure to be taken if the company is not paying salary for the month of March 2020 till today because of this epidemic? Anurag has asked this question to Anupam Malik sir.
They are liable on 2 accounts. First of all, till the lockdown on 23rd, they are liable for legal action against under the Minimum Wages Act and various penalties. And after that, they are liable under IPC 188 because the MHA says you have to prevent panic and to prevent disorder, and the amount had to be paid. This is wrong. They should have been paying. As I said, they should wait for the mandatory period permitted under the law to decide. 45 days compensation there. There are people who are not being able to pay because things have collapsed. The first to come to me were actually Hotels and Restaurant Association of Chandigarh, and they said, "साहब कानून को छोड़िए, आप ये बताओ हमें करना क्या है? मैं तो बंद करूंगा, 6 महीने कोई आएगा नहीं, मैं खाना कहाँ बेचूंगा, मैं तो किस्त भी नहीं दे सकता, ना मैं घर से कोई तनख्वाह नहीं दूंगा, कुछ नहीं दूंगा, मेरे को ये बताओ बंद करने के लिए क्या करना?" So restaurants are the first affected, and there are situations here. So we can't help. These are things which the Honorable Supreme Court can address better. The case is fixed for in the 2nd week of May. That will be better addressed.
Deepka, there is one question. Can a lender invoke pledge of shares made by the borrower as security against money borrowed, like in case of Future Retail, where High Court has put a stay till May 4 on lenders to invoke pledge?
So in future retail, High Court has basically taken a sympathetic view and granted an interim stay. In a similar kind of a situation, it is always advisable that parties start an early discussion and negotiations with the counterparty to prevent such kind of situation from occurring. On the contrary, if the process has already started, then if the answer remains the same, if there's a force majeure clause, then parties can invoke those clauses. If it is not, then the lender can invoke the pledge if the force majeure clause is not there.
Okay, friends, I think we have tried to give answer of all the questions which we have received. But in case even then your question is not answered, or if you think that you are not fully satisfied and you want more detail, you can write to us. We'll reply you and we'll send it to you. And all 5 panelists will give the answer to you. So you are free, you can write to us, we'll give reply. So friends, now time is up. We now 6:30. We have planned that we will close this session at 6:30. So I think thank you very much to all of you. I just want to make an announcement that this type of question answer, we will keep it continuously now, because so many issues are there, so many points are there, and we will, today we have taken up various law and things, but next time we will take up the specific topics on various issues, how to fundraise, how to raise fund, how we can how to enforce the contract, a special section of labor law, Anupam Malik sir again, all the issues of Companies Act we can take up, IBC issue we can take up, and we are planning to have a valuation session in the because now what is happening, every company is in the process of saving cost. So they are planning how to reduce costs, how to restructure. So we are planning to have one session on leaning of companies. So you can, without affecting the performance, because people have made 10 company, 20 company, 30 company, so they can take advantage of merging these companies or working out how to take advantage of this situation. So thank you very much, friends. We received so many questions. We have replied this, and shortly we will come out with next webinar to all of you. Hope you have liked the seminar and webinar. Only thing is we can't see your face. We can see your face, but that is a disturbing. So that's why we have not on this. And second is we are not getting a claps which we are doing during the seminar, because that clapping is encouragement for us. But now here the questions are encouragement for us, which you have given. Thank you very much. Thanks. Jai Hind.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Stay indoors, stay safe.